I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded and ask if there is anyone in the audience who is also recording this meeting. Seeing none, if we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item we have is public comment, and we have Mrs. Jacobson who would like to make an introduction.
Through the chair, thank you. I wanted to have the pleasure tonight of introducing our new Senior Center Director, Marie Sullivan. After an extensive search process, Marie Sullivan started her position today as the new Senior Center / Elder Affairs Director, and she is located up at the Lorraine Glick Norgren Senior Center. Marie has both the experience, education, and background that really made her an ideal fit for this position. So if you could indulge me, I just want to give you a little bit of a background for her and then introduce her. Marie has managed the daily operations of a very large not-for-profit organization, the Erie County Music Educators Association in New York. As executive director of that organization, she managed a 501c3 association that had more than 500 educators, 30 public school districts, and 20 private schools. Most recently, she comes to us from her recent position as the Nutrition Program Director at Elder Services of the Worcester Area, Inc., where she provided direct supervision for assigned staff and overall direction for the Elder Dining Program that services the entire Worcester County. That included office staff, drivers, contracted agencies, vendors, dining center managers, and hundreds of volunteers. She has experience preparing and managing budgets and grants, collaborating with area councils on aging, managing elder transportation programs, evaluating and updating programs and policies, and extensive community outreach experience. She's been trained in elder and child abuse and obligations as a mandatory reporter, which is important in this type of role. And her knowledge of state and federal regulations and programs specific to seniors is very extensive, as is her hands-on ability to prepare contracts, compliance reports, and grant applications. Marie has a Master's of Science degree in Educational Administration, a second Master of Science degree in Music Education, and a Bachelor of Science degree in Music Education. She is familiar with the Auburn Senior Center and was involved in the center through her two positions that she held. One is Senior Employment Supervisor for Generations Online, which was an ARA-funded Catholic Charities program several years ago, and then from there she went on to the Nutrition Program Director at Elder Services. She's also a familiar face at the Senior Center, and I think today, as her first day, some of our seniors recognized her as she has given a presentation to the Council on Aging on nutrition, and she also entertained the seniors over the holidays by playing the piano and leading a sing-along, because as you can tell, she's got a musical background, which is a really nice fit with this type of position. So I want to make sure that I thank the Auburn Council on Aging and its chair, Wayne Page, as well as the Friends of the Auburn Senior Center and its president, Pat Bukowski, and the entire board for all of their help and assistance in this process. It was very long, and it was absolutely worth it. We got a great candidate. I also want to make sure that I acknowledge and thank Cheryl Westerman for acting as the interim director during this entire search process. She did a fantastic job in this capacity, and she will continue to service our seniors in the community as the assistant director. She's an asset to the entire organization and will be a huge help to Marie. So if you could please join me in welcoming Marie, and if Marie, if you'd like to come up and say a few words.
Well, I'm very excited about being at the Senior Center and the appointment, and working with Cheryl and Wayne, Julie, Ed, the COA, and the Friends. Just like Julie said, I've been there involved in the Senior Center under both Catholic Charities and Elder Services for about 4 years. So when I went in today, it really felt very comfortable to see colleagues and to see familiar faces. It was very nice. I did want to mention that now that I've been involved in the older adult programs in at least 26 towns in Massachusetts, I witnessed supportive town government and non-supportive town government. And I have to say, I was thrilled when I met Julie and Ed, because they radiated with enthusiasm when they talked about the Auburn seniors and about the plans that they had envisioned for them. So thank you for that wonderful support. That was a wonderful segue to the position. Now, we know that the older adults are extremely important and impact everything from the economy to politics. And so I'm really thrilled to be included in developing the next chapter for the seniors in Auburn. Please feel free to contact me anytime. I love the communication. You can even contact me with complaints, because then we together can work to resolve them. I think the open communication will help us move through all the issues and focus on our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And congratulations and welcome
aboard.
aboard. Good luck in your new position.
Welcome and the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome again.
Nice to have you. Welcome aboard.
Good luck in your new position.
Nice to see you in this job.
Thank you.
I have to say, as her first day, this is a very long day. She's been at the senior center the whole time, has yet to leave, so we appreciate you coming in. Thanks, Marie.
Next, we have Joe Hamill, and forgive me, is it private citizen? That you're private citizen, y'all discuss, okay?
Can I give this to Sharon?
Yes.
Joe Hamill. Madam Chairman, last week at a public forum at the Senior Center that is now being televised on the local cable channel, a member of this board embarrassed my wife,
Excuse me.
my daughter.
Mr. Hamill, could you hold a minute?
Point of
What
order.
is the point of order?
This forum is for town business. This is not a forum for politicking or election events to be discussed. Mr. Hamill is representing a candidate who is running for a position in the town, and this is not the forum for this.
I am not representing a candidate. I am representing myself, a citizen of the town of Auburn.
Mr. Hamill is referencing an event that was a political event, and this is not the place to discuss it. This forum is for town business and town business only, not for politicking.
The Senior Center was held an event.
This is the only forum I have to respond to what was said last week.
This is not the forum for that.
Yes, it is.
This
We're not
forum-
going to go back and
All right,
forth. I'm
this
going to
forum
make a
is for town
decision.
business, and I would also remind the chair that on several occasions, when other residents have come up here and made personal references, you have gavelled them down and not allowed them to speak. I would expect the same to continue.
To your point,
Mr. Hamill,
I was speaking.
okay,
To your point, Mr. Simonian, I have in fact gavelled people out of order when they have come up here to make personal attacks, and the person who they were attacking was not here and didn't have an opportunity to respond.
I disagree. Mr. Robidoux has been gavelled on several occasions when you felt he was attacking you personally.
I'm not going to address Mr.
I
Robidoux's
understand
specific
that, but
behavior.
the precedent has been set, and this is a town meeting. This meeting is for town business. It is not for politics, personal agendas. And Mr. Hamill has been representing one of the candidates in the race all around town. This is not the forum for that.
I am going to consult with the town manager. Can we have a 2-minute recess, please?
I would ask that we consult with town council.
Can we have a 2-minute recess, please?
Motion to recess.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'll call this meeting back to order. Mr. Hamill, are you available at the second public comment?
Sure, I'll stay.
Okay, so
I
for
wouldn't miss this for anything.
for board members, I'll just say that we do have a call into town council to get an opinion from town council. I know that in the past, when we have asked town council, he has said that we can't prohibit speech at a public meeting. It's protected speech. What the chair can control is the tone and the language of the statement. So I am going to hold this until the next public comment. We have a second public comment, and I expect this meeting will go fairly quickly.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item we have is a 7:05 hearing for a motor vehicle Class 2 license, Cars of Summer Sales and Service, 603 Southbridge Street. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor of opening the hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Good evening. If you could tell us a little bit about what you're here for tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Cooper, and I'm asking the board this evening to approve a license to sell cars at 603 Southwood Street, Auburn, currently to replace the dealership that's leaving at the end of this month. We are just expanding our business into the other side of the parking lot. I don't know what else.
So all members familiar, this is the site across from Bentley's Pub.
Yes,
Bentley's
correct.
Pub, currently 2 separate locations.
Correct.
So it's my understanding that you met with DCG on April 18th. Are you familiar with the conditions that they requested be put on your license?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
For the record, I will read them. There shall be no loading or unloading of cars within the state highway layout. All loading and loading must be done on the applicant's property. All vehicles are to be parked on paved surfaces and arranged per the approved site plan. This shall include customers and employees. The business owner shall apply for a permit for any proposed sign alterations, including any sign refacing. There is to be no outdoor auto repair on the property. Do members have any questions or comments regarding this license?
I just want to state that the business that's moving out, Mr. Cooper is just going to be taking over that business as part of his property, and there will be absolutely no change whatsoever to the building or what they're doing in the building.
Correct.
So you have the map of the layout and the hearing notification in your packet. Is there anything else? Is there a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. The hearing is closed. Is there a motion regarding the license?
You can make a motion to approve the license provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void,
Are you including the
including the
bullets from...
conditions recommended by the DCG.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Good luck with your new...
Good luck.
Thank you very
Undertaking.
much, folks.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
night now.
You too, thank you. The next item we have is a one-day beer and wine license for Auburn Youth and Family Services. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Kennedy, and I'm representing Auburn Youth and Family Services. And we're asking for a one-day beer and wine license for June 9th for our second annual fashion show at the Auburn Mall.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about the event specifically, you know, the need for a one-day beer and wine license?
It's going to be in front of Sears. It'll be 6:30 to 9:30 on a Sunday night. We wait for the mall to close. Right now, we have Macy's, TJ Maxx, Sears. Those are the big stores that are lending us clothes for the fashion show. The restaurants we have right now, who'll be serving hors d'oeuvres is Chuck's Steakhouse, Ravezzi's, the Twisted Fork, and Orico's Pizzerino. And we're waiting to hear on 2 more restaurants.
Okay.
We also have a raffle.
And members received a memo from Mr. Antinovica with comments regarding the floor plan and an inspection done by himself and the fire chief with recommended conditions. Are you familiar with that?
I am,
Mrs.
yes.
Kennedy, a certified crowd manager be designated for this event, which
We
my
do. We have John
recollection
Lynch.
is
Yes,
you
John
have
Lynch's
someone
been
from the last
certified.
event. All doors in the egress path from the event area to the parking area are to be unlocked and operating properly, and the stage, which is considered a catwalk, is to have a maximum height of no greater than 30 feet. 30 inches, I'm sorry, 30 feet would be a little out of control.
And we are going to have a police detail, even though you're not requesting
Okay.
it. And we have the Auburn Security will be also there.
Okay, do any members have any questions or comments? Mr. Simonian?
Just one, on the list of restaurants, you have two listed that you're waiting to hear from?
Yes.
Has there
As
been-
of today, I have not.
And they'll, because I know that you have the documentation in here from the other ones still.
Yes, I spoke to Darlene tonight, and she told me as soon as I got those to send them in to her. She gave me a form to send them in
Perfect,
with.
thank you.
You're welcome, Steve.
Is there anything else? I know it was very successful and you had no
Yes, it
issues
was.
with, with the license last year, so. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment? Is there a motion regarding the request for a license?
I make a motion to approve the license, provided all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license, render it null and void, and the conditions recommended by the DCG.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Have a great event.
Thank you very much.
Have
You're
fun.
welcome. So the next item we have, which is Board of Selectmen items, we have items 2 through 6. On these items, because of the proximity to my home, the Massachusetts Ethics Commission has given advice that I not participate in these hearings. So I'm going to turn the gavel over to Mr. Grossman, and he will be handling this request.
Okay, all of these articles on the agenda are pertaining to a one-day entertainment license, 3 of which are the same, are on Saturdays. So I'd like to address a motion to move up or put together agenda items 6A, 2, 4, and 6. In that they're
Motion.
all the same.
Motion to bundle items 6A2, 6A4, and 6A6.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a representative here. Would you like to tell us a little about what your intentions are, what your plans are?
First, my name's Dustin. I'm the marketing manager at Sheldon's Harley-Davidson, and of Sheldon Incorporated. We've recently received new management within the last 5 to 6 months, trying to do a kind of revamp of the image of Sheldon's Harley-Davidson. Obviously, with Harley-Davidson, our intention is to try to build a little bit of fun and excitement for the brand, as well as the dealership itself. We've done very little events in the past, and our goal is to try to do more events, obviously within reason and within town standards and following town rules in order to try to obviously build the business and grow excitement for the brand.
These events, and right now we're discussing the 3 that are on Saturdays.
Yes.
You just explained the purpose of the events. Do you estimate any numbers as far as attendees are concerned?
I mean, on a rough estimate, we're estimating anywhere from 100 to 200 people throughout the day, not really at once. We have plenty of parking to control all that, obviously. We are hoping that with the hours of 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., it would be a little more acceptable as far as the neighborhood goes, to have possibly an outdoor DJ or an outdoor band. We wouldn't have a stage or anything set up. It would be kind of at the at the will of where we're going to put it, at the will of the town, what works best for the town, so that we're not distracting anybody.
What about police detail?
We haven't discussed that yet, but obviously we know a few of the local officers, and I met with the DCG, and we had discussed, the possibility of some stipulations put on these permits. So obviously, we're open to a discussion as to what we need to do in order to make it happen within, obviously, the requirements of the town.
And is there any alcohol involved?
Right now, we're not discussing any alcohol. We're not in the market to try to do any alcohol-related things at the moment. Obviously, in the future, we might discuss it, but it's not 100%. But as far as the events go that you have in front of you, we're not discussing any alcohol content.
Any of the board members have any additional questions? I think we'll, in that they're separate, we'll take in order as far as accepting or not accepting, starting with 6A2.
Shall we, well, we've already discussed the three of them together. Can we put the three of them together in one motion?
Well, you voted to take them together, so.
Yeah, okay, we can do it all at once.
All right. Well, then, I would make the motion to approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it, and failure to comply with any and all the conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and the conditions recommended by the DCG, and that's for items 2, 4, and 6.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There's a vote. We have agenda item 6A3. And 6A5, which are both the same times.
Make a motion to combine them?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can we combine those since they take place on different days? I understand they're the same time, but the other three were all Saturday. I guess it wouldn't matter, but.
Let's address them individually. We only have two, so. Okay, so
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion.
agenda item 6A3, we're addressing for an event to be held on May 21st from 5 to 8 p.m. Same conditions as applied in the other items.
They're all the same type of event, correct? Either
Correct,
one?
yeah. They're either customer appreciation events. We've got customer appreciation events. We've got an Honor Our Heroes Day, which is intended for first responders and military. And the evening ones are actually a cruise night, very similar to what other people do as far as motorcycles and cars, kind of a show type thing. Obviously working with the Board of Health as well on food and that kind of thing. So the entertainment permit we're looking for that isn't necessarily music. It's mostly in order to have somebody who can announce different events that are going on for the evening, different vehicles, the winners of, if we do a competition for trophies, announcing winners for that kind of thing. It's not necessarily music per se, it's more of an announcer, I guess you could say.
I'll make a motion to approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void. I would also include the recommendations from the DCG.
Second.
And this, you're referring to item number, addressing May 21st.
Yes,
2013.
third item, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there's both. And we'll go to agenda item 6A5.
I will also make a motion to approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all conditions stated upon it, and failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void. I am also including all the conditions put before you by the DCG, and I would actually ask, sir, if we could follow up with any police recommendation
Yes, ma'am.
for the board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's vote. You did state that you probably are not going to have a DJ or a band, you're just going to have announcements?
Yes, sir. We had originally discussed doing music at the nighttime events, but after meeting with the DCG, I found it more appropriate as far as courtesy for the neighbors in the local neighborhood to not have outdoor music. Obviously, in the middle of the week at night, it can be awfully distracting for some people. So we've decided to keep the music away from it and just try to keep announcements instead of actually having music playing. So out of courtesy for the neighborhood and the local neighbors.
Aside from this, we've approved, these articles that are on the agenda for this evening. I would like to suggest that we have the subcommittee, the bylaw committee, address music situation as far as evenings, times, and so on, to set a policy which we don't have in place right now. That's agreeable to the rest of the board members.
I think it's a great idea.
We have a motion? We need a motion? Motion on that, Sharon?
Bylaw review committee can just,
That you want to you're asking the issue to be referred to the
Subcommittee for addressing the issue,
all right.
music. And so
Then motion to have the bylaw review committee look into possible issues with our conditions with outdoor music.
Second.
for the subcommittee, the board.
The subcommittee.
Subcommitte, but
We'll come back to the board.
isn't that covered under
But there
entertainment?
was a
license?
noise.
Right, I thought we already had, I mean.
It's not specific
we
between
should let
days.
Yeah, we can let
We
this.
should let him,
Yeah.
you're all set, sorry about that.
Thank you, ladies and
Good
gentlemen.
luck.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
It's,
There is,
it doesn't address day, evening, or whatever.
I think it just addresses specific hours. I don't
I
know,
don't think the hours
It's,
are in it.
They aren't. It does need to be.
okay, then that's fine.
I think that'd be the case if the bylaw review committee says it's already been addressed in one of the bylaws, just come back with that report.
Absolutely.
Fair enough to
Let's
at
look
least
into
review it.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is
Wait,
vote.
did we get a second on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Next, we have agenda item 7. A request to begin street acceptance process, Camden Drive. We have a request from Mr. Jeffrey Boisclair to begin the process of accepting Camden Drive as a public road in accordance with the street acceptance process. Is Jeffrey here this evening?
They don't usually
Yeah,
come. It's just a matter of,
to refer it to the
to
plant.
start the process.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question. Normally, with the request, we get a stipulated number of signatures of people on the street, and we got nothing in our packet.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Brand.
Good evening. The reason I'm here tonight is because I've spoken to Mr. Boisclair several times about this. He's in the middle of a subdivision approval. He has an approved subdivision. He's done the construction. Allegedly, he has completed it. He has not formalized or finalized his subdivision with the planning board. He has not requested a final inspection. He has not completed any punch list items. So I think his request to the board is preemptive. And the reason that you wouldn't have signatures is this is coming through the subdivision process. It's not an old road. This road was approved in 2005 and has just recently finalized construction. So I happened to see this on the agenda this afternoon, so I thought I would come and give you sort of the information on where he was in the process. I'll have to contact Mr. Bosclair. I've spoken to him, as I said. It was probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and he was initially trying to get ready for this year's annual town meeting, but he wasn't going to finish his punch list items due to weather. So he hasn't, again, formally requested a closeout with the planning board. We are still holding a tri-party agreement. He still has a final inspection to go through, which potentially will come up with unfinished items. So I would request that the board, you can certainly forward it to the planning board with the request, but the planning board won't be responding quickly due to Mr. Bosclair not having contacted us. But I will contact him tomorrow and try and clarify what he needs to do with us.
Mr. Holstrom?
Yeah, through the chair, is there a timeline right now? Do you know where they are with going forward to go to the planning board? I know we're talking about you haven't got any signatures, you haven't got
I do
anything?
not. Well, it wouldn't be a petition for acceptance because it's gone through the subdivision process.
Okay.
The way the current street acceptance process has worked previously is when a developer comes to the planning board and works on an active subdivision, at the end of that process, the road is considered a developer's road through the whole process. It's private, but it's a special class of private with the intent that upon completion, it's built to a standard that the town has decided is acceptable. And so the planning board, through him finalizing the subdivision, would actually be the sponsor of acceptance of that road. So it's not a petition from a citizen, it's a petition from a board. So the planning board sponsors the developer's acceptance of the road because they've ensured that up until that point, the road is built to a standard that's acceptable. So the town's getting a brand new road. There's no maintenance involved. It's not as if we're picking up a piece of pavement that's 30 or 40 years old. It's essentially brand new. It's been verified as constructed properly and able to stand the test of time. So upon that acceptance, the town, it goes into the Chapter 90 rolls, and it's easier for the DPW to look at it and maintain it long-term, accepting it as a new road.
As a follow-up through the chair, is Mr. Boisclair the developer?
Yes, he is.
Oh, he is the developer?
Correct.
Okay.
And historically, they have been the one who has requested the beginning of the acceptance process, and the planning board has been sort of their, again, sponsor on the roadway, because they know that it was built to their standards.
Did you have something else?
No.
Okay. So this isn't one of those situations where, like years ago, you could have a street not be accepted and kind of fall through the cracks, and then
Correct.
many years later, your general subdivision site plan approval ensures that the planning board bring this
Yes,
through the
that's
process, which would first come to us, then for them to hold
Correct.
the hearing, and then to town meeting?
Well, yes, your referral to the board for a report to hold the layout hearing. And the reason that we've been doing it like this is to prevent roads falling through the cracks. I think the last road that was accepted through this process was Bridle Path, over off of Prospect. That was done by Emerson Holmes through the subdivision process. At the end of that, the board shepherded them through the acceptance process, and now that's a town-accepted road. So we don't want the roads to stay private and fall apart. We want the town to take ownership of them immediately and be able to ensure that they don't fall apart.
So I'll just say that I would support Mr. Bernie's request that we don't go outside of the standard routine process that we've developed. But it's certainly up to the board.
And again, I mean, I don't think it would be wrong for the board to refer it to the planning board for a report, but at this time, the report's going to come back that the road's not ready for acceptance due to these failures in the process. And they're easily fixed.
Mr. Simonian?
Yeah, through the chair. So, I don't remember everything when we accepted Bridle Path, but if tonight you're asking us to just begin the vote to begin the process.
That's Mr. Bossclair's request.
Right, and then at that point, that would involve the planning board?
Well, yeah, because the selectmen's role in the acceptance is they get the request, and the layout hearing is essentially what really pushes it on to town meeting. So the planning board by state law is required to submit a report saying that the road was constructed to the way that they believe it should be, or per the plans, or a variety of other different things. And the planning board can't say that right now because Mr. Bossclair hasn't submitted a final request for a final inspection.
Mr. Holstrom?
Yeah, as much as I agree to this formal request, I would say make a motion to table this until such time that it's ready to go to the planning board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. So we are going to go back to the issue with public comment, and I am going to, although I was able to listen in on part of the conversation, Mrs. Jacobson heard the entire opinion from town council, so I will ask her to share that at this time.
Through the chair, thank you. Myself and Ed Kazanovich, Assistant Town Manager, did receive a call back from Town Council Robert Hennigan, and as the chair said, she came in maybe midway through the conversation, so I just want to repeat the whole conversation from the notes that I took. According to Town Council, number one, citizens have a right, First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, but also cannot use a forum for disparaging remarks if they are inappropriate. His statement was that this is a citizens forum under citizens complaint, which allows citizens the opportunity to come in and make comment and give input. He said this is not an item that's being debated, it's a citizen comment. Not knowing in advance what the citizen is about to say, the chair needs to give the citizen the opportunity to speak. The citizen can speak about what has been done in the context of the town, and since it was a forum at the senior center, it was a town event and a public event. However, the chair cannot allow disparaging remarks to be made to a BOS member, but the citizen, again, should be allowed to speak about what happened at a town-sponsored forum, but again, cannot make disparaging remarks toward a Board of Selectmen member. The chair needs to control the comments, enable the citizen to have the 3 minutes if the 3 minutes is the traditional limit for speaking. And again, the person speaking, the resident, can speak to the operation of an event, can speak to what happened at an event, can speak about what was said at an event, but cannot say any disparaging comments about a Board of Selectmen member or any comments that are construed as political in nature as being a debate involving candidates, but state what they need to say. And again, if the citizen does say anything disparaging, the chair has a right at that point to ask the citizen to wrap up their comments and stop the process.
Mr. Simonian?
Well, since the town attorney hasn't really ruled as far as the citizen who's about to speak, representing a candidate who's up for election this year, I will state that, according to Mr. Galvin's office, since that person has been representing a candidate, has been politicking for that candidate, it would be potentially considered election rigging, and if that citizen is allowed to speak, considering he has been deeply involved with the candidate in the race, I'll be left with no other choice but to place another call to Senator Galvin's office and ask them to launch an investigation into the comments that are made here. I'll just put that on the record now.
And through the chair, I believe town council would agree to the point, specifically because I asked that question, would agree to the point where a resident cannot stand up and use this as a forum for promoting a candidate or for opposing a candidate and specifically state that. But a resident and a citizen have a right to come in under citizen's comment to make a comment about something that happened at a town function. The other thing that the town council said, the chair cannot disallow a citizen to come up and speak in anticipation, not knowing what the citizen is saying. He said you cannot, ahead of time, say you can't speak because we're presuming what may or may not be said in the speech. So he said you need to make it clear the citizen cannot make disparaging remarks, cannot state that he is for or against a specific candidate, but he can speak to something that happened at a town event. And that would have to be, those regulations have to be clear. And I think that's consistent with what it sounds like the Attorney General said.
So, having said that, Mr. Hamel, I assume you have in your hand a prepared statement. Do you need a minute to review that statement?
I just have to drop a couple of words.
Okay, so I am going to remind you that you, because I don't know what you're going to say, you've already indicated that it's in regards to the forum, that you can, and I took notes as Mr. Hennigan spoke, you can speak to how you feel about what happened at a town-sponsored forum. You cannot make disparaging comments. If you can disagree with the issue, this is not an item to be debated back and forth. It is not a Board of Selectmen item. I am going to ask you to listen carefully. If I gavel you, I expect you to stop your comments immediately and till I rule whether you can continue on. Having said that, Mr. Hamel, you have 3 minutes, and please be careful with any disparaging comments or inappropriate language.
Madam Chairman, last week at a public forum at the Senior Center that is now being televised on the local cable channel, a member of this board embarrassed my wife, my daughter, and attempted to embarrass me. He read a private letter that my daughter wrote to him over 2.5 years ago that has nothing to do with this campaign. For someone to sit up there week after week and complain about things that are allegedly said about him and his family, and then saying that families were off limits in campaigns, and then read this private letter at an event he knew was going to be televised to discredit me and the candidate I support.
I'm not going to allow you to speak to, I'm not going to allow you to speak to any candidate. Mrs. Jacobson made that. It doesn't matter. Mrs. Jacobson made it clear we're not going to discuss any candidates.
Okay, all right, I will drop that line. To be televised to discredit me is an absolute disgrace to the Board of Selectmen and the town of Auburn. I'm not looking for an apology from him, but if the voters of Auburn want this type of
We're not going to discuss the election or...
Okay.
Mr. Hamel is making
Excuse
this
me, Mr.
political forum.
Simonian, I will make the ruling. And I just stopped him. You are not to discuss the election, a candidate, or any candidate. Please be very careful. If I have to gavel you out of order again, I'm going to have to stop the statement. So if you need a minute to review your statement,
All right,
please.
I'm just going to go cut to the chase on the end. The citizens of Auburn can watch this on the Auburn cable channel I can't, all right. And that's where it's going to be. It's up on the Auburn Cable Channel. Make your own mind up and see who you want to vote for.
Thank you, Mr. Hamel.
Chair?
The next, Mrs. Simonian.
The last comment, again, violated what was asked.
Mr. Simonian, you're free to follow up with,
Again, addressed the election.
I
The final comment addressed the election.
addressed my concerns with Mr. Hamel. We have a record of the meeting. You're free to contact any agency, but I could only go by the advice we were given by town council. The next item is gift acceptance. We have a gift to the police department from Masterman's and for $100. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. From the fire department, we have from Charlene Cooney, the fire department gift account in the amount of $50. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. And the next item is proclamations. We have none. Under member items, we have a discussion on the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, and that's by Mr. Simonian. Mr. Simonian.
Yeah, I just wanted, and Mr. Ethier's here also. I had a conversation recently with Sari Biddix from the Historical Commission, and even though the Civil War years were 1861 to 1865, for some reason this year is being touted as the unofficial 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And through the conversation I had with her, she was telling me that there were close to 100 Auburn residents who were actually involved in that war. And I have subsequently had a conversation with Mr. Ethier. So the reason that I asked for this to be on the agenda is, we're always talking about community events and doing things within the community, and I think that I would like to see the town work with the Historical Commission to see if we can celebrate both the Auburn residents who participated in the war and the 150th anniversary of the war. It was one of the major and more important wars that our country was involved in. And if Mr. Ethier has any comments,
Mr. Ethier, did you want to come up? Please.
And I'd just like to add, I know that, right now he's working with the town through some grants to restore the GR monument, which he can speak to a lot better than I can.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam
Just your
Chair.
name up for the record, please.
Members of the Board of Selectmen, Madam Town Manager, my name is Ken Ethier. I live at 404 Leicester Street, and I have a hobby of local history. I've done a lot of research on the town of Auburn. I have a couple of very short articles here just to give you some kind of idea of what the involvement was. I'd like to read them. I won't take a long time. I know it's the end of the night, and you don't want to hear me talk for too long. But anyways, the first would be, Worcester first learned of the war between the states April 14th, 1861. Shortly afterwards, a meeting was held in Auburn. It was voted to raise $1,000 for volunteers that would be employed in the military service of the country. By June, $5 was voted to each of the 23-month volunteers then in service. That doesn't sound like much now, but it was quite a bit of money then. Anyways, in 1862, the quota for Auburn was 9 men. The town voted $150 to induce enlistment. Later, it was increased to $175. More incentives were voted as the war went on. By the war's end, 97 of Auburn men had served, 5 more than required by the state. In 1870, a granite shaft was erected at the lower cemetery of Hillside for 15 men from Auburn who lost their lives in the war. That's the monument that the town has applied for the grant for. It appears to be in pretty good shape for its age. I think that some work could be done to probably, maybe people 50 or 100 years from now would still be able to look at it. If it goes forward, I'd like to see the Association of Gravestone Studies up in Greenfield tell us just what to and what not to do. I don't think there are any local monument companies that would know how to do the work on something that old. I have another short article here on the Civil War. This all came about when the Historical Commission was restoring the 1750 burying ground known as Clark Cemetery, or Clark Burying Ground up on Prospect Street. I got the Auburn's Vital Records, and I was going through it one night looking for some of the people that were buried there, and we believe possibly as early as 1750. And anyways, I kind of stumbled on this person, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about what his involvement was. Interred in the West Auburn burying ground is Richard Boardman Jennison, or R. Boardman Jennison, as he preferred to be called. R. Boardman served in Company G, 36th Regiment, Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry during the Civil War. He was captured and was sent to Andersonville, officially known as Sumter, in West Georgia, the largest Confederate prisoner of war camp. During the 14 months of existence, Andersonville lacked many of the life's necessities, such as shelter, food, water, and medical attention. Of the 45,000 soldiers that entered the gates, 13,000 never saw freedom again. The leading cause of death was diarrhea, dysentery, and scurvy. R. Boardman, third generation native of Ward/Auburn, was born on May 17, 1842, one of the 13,000 to die at Andersonville. His gravestone reads, "Starved at Andersonville." When I found this, he didn't even have a GAR, the star with the 1861 to 65 that holds the flag, that would tell everybody that he actually, who he was. And you couldn't really read where it said "Starved at Andersonville." I had seen that in the records. So this was all done with the Historical Commission. And again, we went to the guidelines of the Association of Gravestone Studies up in Greenfield, Massachusetts, which is a worldwide organization that deals just with this kind of how to properly preserve something like this. And the method was a plastic brush and a real mild cleaning solution. We cleaned it so you could see it. We got Reverend Knox from the First Congregational Church. He did a nice ceremony. We had Bill Kovacs from the American Legion, Jeff Murray, who was a selectman then, Guy Moran, Civil War interpreter. We had a real nice celebration, and Reverend Knox did a religious, just told a little bit about Richard Boardman, and we know his house was on Prospect Street. And we did quite a bit of research, but it was really a nice thing, and I would love to see the town recognize the Civil War people and all the other people in town. You got Stephen Lucas, who was a policeman that died in the line of duty, and I think in 1986, and he does have a stone over at the police station. There was also Patrick Foley in 1930. His death certificate calls him a policeman, but he died in a fire in Auburn. I mean, you could go on and on and on, but I would just so much like to see the young people in the town, and some way we could actually give some recognition for these people, especially coming up on Memorial Day. There are so many of them that gave their life so we could live the way we live today. And if somebody could come up with a way of letting the people in town know about them, I would really like to see that. I've got copies of the two papers here, and I don't know if you have any comments or questions. I give you these, otherwise you don't have to listen to me anymore.
Mr. Simonian, did you have something else?
Just wanted to add, as I said, for a community event to celebrate Auburn's history and finding out that it was technically the 150th anniversary of the war, I'd like to, see if we could do something that would generate some community interest, some involvement, and at the same time honor those people from the town I've always believed it is an important part of everything that we do, and I hate to see it forgotten by future generations.
Absolutely. So I've had like 30 seconds to speak to Mrs. Jacobson, but we, have a thought of what, at least how to proceed.
Through the chair, if I may, we have a Veterans Advisory Committee, and the mission of the Veterans Advisory Committee, and it's a fairly new committee, I believe we have 5, if not 6 members on that now, and the charge of the Veterans Advisory Committee is to come up with educational and community programs and events to educate the community as to various wars and conflicts that local residents have fought in, as well as to try to bring that education into the schools. So we could bring this to them as a recommendation for something they could work on this current year. And they could also reach out to Mr. Ethier, and I'm sure if you'd be willing to meet with them,
Yes,
give them some information.
absolutely.
It's probably a really great project for them to work on. We're trying to get them to focus more on veterans and how important they are, and trying to get some of our veterans into the schools anyway. So this is just a great opportunity. And just also want to thank Mr. Ethier. He's been helping me get all the information I need to get this grant together, which is due Friday, and remind the board that you did authorize me to go ahead and apply for it, so thank you for that. And also want to make a comment that town meeting also last
Saw that.
Tuesday authorized the expenditure of $5,000 for the match for the grant. So we're putting in for a $10,000 grant. I'm trying to finalize it now, but basically, we're hoping that, depending on the final cost that comes in, the monument, the Soldiers Monument, which contains the names of 14 Civil War soldiers who actually died in the war, in addition to other soldiers who served in the war but did not die in the war, died after the war. That monument at Hillside Cemetery is in some need of repair. It's not bad, considering it's there since 1870, but some of the marble is cracked. Some of the engraving is hard to see, so it needs some work. We did get a monument company to come out and give us some estimates, and they estimated somewhere between $6,000 and $9,000. Now, the total project cost is $10,000, so our thought was I was going to put in the grant application for the number one priority being the Soldiers Monument, and if it comes in less than the $10,000, to use the additional grant funds to restore the Jennison Monument, which is a stone marker, and that's also starting to show some wear. And we've also received a price on some the GAR flag holders, which are the very nice flag holders that actually hold the flags at each of the Civil War sites around town. So we've put together a total budget of $10,000, and it will all be contingent on what the costs come back when we finally do go out. And we'd like to work with the organization that you mentioned out in Greenfield,
Sure.
as well as state preservation. So that grant goes in on Friday. We have letters of support from Historic Society, Historic Commission, Parks, Rec, and Cemetery Commission. So I think that's another way to honor, the soldiers who served in the wars, to make sure that we maintain these monuments in perpetuity. And then secondly, I will bring this to the Veterans Advisory Committee at the next meeting.
Would it be okay if I approached and gave you, I've got some
absolutely.
copies?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Grossman has
Before you
something
leave,
first.
I have a question. Of the individuals that served, would you say, 97?
Yes.
Do any of those still have families that are living in town? Do we know?
I would have to do some research on that. Mr. Simone and I had a conversation at some time, and I probably did more research. I wanted to know where their house was, and I never really. I'm sure that there would be some. I don't know the answer, but they probably wouldn't even know that they were descendants. It's so long ago. People lose.
The reason for my asking the question is that if there are some that are known to be descendants of those that were serving at that time, if they have any information and input on the individuals, that would be helpful to
I agree. If memory serves me right, a few years back, we did, we put a plaque up for Patrick Foley, who again was his death certificate lists him as a full-time policeman, but he was also a fireman, and he died fighting a fire in town in 1930. And it's another real sad story. Back then, during the Depression, his wife never even got any money or anything for, I think it was a year and a half. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on and on. It's so sad, but I don't mean to be rambling, but we did find a descendant of, and he was at the ceremony. That so sometimes you can find somebody, and sometimes even like this, to do something on television, somebody at home may say, you know, well, I know a certain person, something may come out of that. But the town has always been very good. When Norman Hall, the first Auburn man to die in World War II, when that news came back to the town, there was a woman named Shunky who was actually German-born, living in Auburn, donated land for what is Hall Square today. Is at the intersection of Oxford and Bryn Mawr. You've probably gone by the stone, and a lot of times you don't really take notice, but I did quite a bit of research on that little square there, and she gave the land, and the citizens in the town actually would go with picks and shovels and wheelbarrows, and I don't think a dime was spent from the town. It was just people, the proud people in the town wanted to put something for Norman Hall, and that's how the whole thing was done. I've got all the details if at some time you wanted to read about it, but I mean, it's such a nice, such a caring story that the people in the town have always been very good like that, and I just would like to see more people aware of what we have in the town.
Mr. Ethier, I would just like to say you could probably do a bi-weekly cable show and never share all of the information that you have.
It's a hobby.
Like, yeah, but you really need to do a local cable access show weekly and just have guests and share this information, because we're so impressed every time you come before us with what your passion for this.
Well, it's something I love doing, so it's not a chore, it's not work, it's something I enjoy. And
yeah. So before Mr. Ethier hands us these documents, you know, I certainly would like to show the support of the board to this item, so I'd entertain a motion to request that the town manager send this information to the Veterans Advisory Committee, and also invite Mr. Ethier to present the information he has shared with us tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Just, I would ask if since she was the one who actually started the conversation, and I believe she's also a member of the Historical Commission, if Sari is interested in being part of it as well, that she also be invited in, if care to amend the motion to include her. She was the one who actually set it forth.
Mr. Holstrom? You made the motion?
Yes,
to amend it, to include Mrs.
Absolutely.
Biddix and Mr. Grossman, your second.
Yes.
Anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Sari would have been here tonight, but she was not available. She would have liked to come, but, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm almost done writing that narrative.
And for those of you watching who haven't had the opportunity to visit the Auburn Historical Museum on South Street, I know they are open on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I've been there on a Saturday morning from 9 to 11. It's really quite incredible to see what we have in this museum. Anything from the schools to history to roads to veterans. It's just absolutely incredible, the artifacts they have in the museum. So I would encourage you to stop by. Mr. Ethier, do you know the hours on the Tuesday?
There's two different ones.
Is it 5 to 7?
Actually, I think it's both 9:30 to 12:30 on
Nine.
both days now.
This is 9:30 to 12:30, Saturday and Tuesday. But if somebody said there's no way I can possibly make that, the ladies that do the tours down there, I know they've made special arrangements. For instance, if class reunion from the high school or something like that, I know the ladies that do the tour are really nice people, and I'm sure if you call the number that's in the book for the museum, they'd make a special time for you.
So please take the opportunity to
Thank you.
visit when you're out there on Saturday morning doing your errands, stop by. And I'll say stop by for a few minutes, but you'll be lost for a couple of hours enjoying the history of Auburn. Oh, did everyone get it?
Everyone got one.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Is there anything else under member items? Mr. Simonian?
Just one other thing, and this unfortunately transpired after we got member items, so I'm just bringing it up. And since last Wednesday, I've had the opportunity to speak with probably about 300, close to 300 residents. And I asked that they call other members of the board as well as the town manager. I believe it was at our last meeting that the issue of changing the Independence Day festivities to Pappas was brought up. So all of those people who asked me to, I'm addressing it here, and I hope that they have called other members of the board and called the town manager. Unfortunately, some people don't want to get involved. But essentially, the message that I got from most of the people who I spoke with was that they have some concerns, especially the folks up on Packagug Hill, with parking and the magnitude of the amount of people that could potentially attend. I was informed, and I don't know if the police department has been called, but some people told me that even during when there's baseball games going on at all the fields, some folks are still parking on Curtis Street and then just walking through the emergency gate. So they have concerns about people parking on the lawns. There not being enough parking and things of that nature, as well as some of the people down in the Bryn Mawr area were kind of upset and sad to see the parade route changed. So I'm on their behalf, as they asked me, I'm bringing it up, and I would, again, encourage any of those people who are watching tonight to please voice those concerns, or at least have the conversation that you had with me, with other members of the board, and with the town manager. I think that it's only fair that those people call and speak to you all as well. I think, it shouldn't just be one person. But I did say I would bring it up when I was asked, so... I just, this is one of the things that Mr. Delalis was concerned about during the planning stages of the park, that ultimately events would be held there that might be more than the capacity of the park. And so, just since enough residents seem to be concerned in both cases, I'm addressing it here.
So I can only speak for myself that I didn't receive a single call or a single email. I don't know about other board members.
I'm disappointed there, I guess.
Has anyone received any calls or? No? No one's received? Manager? So not a single call,
Wow.
not a single email. I know, I just want to, I'll let Mrs. Jacobson speak, but the point of the parking that's going on now during games, I know through the entire process, the residents on Curtis Street have been encouraged to call the police department and report it, and I know that the police department is aware of the situation and have been very responsive to those calls. So we certainly can ask the chief if he's had any calls regarding the parking, but the residents up on that street have been not just informed, but been encouraged to call so that we don't have that situation. Mr. Simone?
Oh, no, I'll be very clear. The people who said that it has happened, who have told me that they've called, they said the Auburn Police Department has been immediately responsive anytime that anyone has called, and they've been grateful, but sometimes after they're gone, people will go back and do the same thing. So
So may need to patrol
Through the
that a
chair,
little more often.
And through the chair, if I may, we do have a parking plan in place. We actually last summer spent several months with the police department, the fire department, and DPW planning and organizing for the Mass Symphony Orchestra. At that time, not knowing what the weather was going to be and being the first event at the complex, we didn't know how many people to expect, so we were basing it on other concerts that they have given in other communities. So we planned for up to 3,000 people to attend. Clearly, we didn't have anywhere near that. But we did have a plan in place for parking. We had the appropriate road signs. We had cones blocking off certain streets. Curtis Street was closed to all but resident traffic. That parking plan, I've spoken to the chief about the Independence Day celebration, and we will be revisiting that same parking plan. It's a good plan. It makes sense. We would be using that for any event at the complex, and we have had several events there. So we, obviously, the police will definitely be involved in this, definitely make sure that we have the appropriate controls in place to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood and their ability to get in and out of their properties. So that is something that we're obviously aware of. I can't say that I received any calls. A couple calls may have come in that I just haven't, I've played telephone tag with, and I haven't been able to get back to that person, so I can't say that why they called. They didn't leave a message when they called. But certainly if someone wants to speak to us about it, we're certainly open to doing so. But again, we do have a very good plan in place. Last year, we used Code Red, actually, just in that one neighborhood. We actually targeted the streets that we were going to be closing or making one-way or making one-sided parking only. As a matter of fact, Officer Jay Johnson, who's here tonight, he was in charge of the parking details, and he did an outstanding job of making sure that we had a great plan in place. It was coordinated through DPW. Most recently, through some grant money, we actually were able to get some additional cones and road signs for handling events like this. One of the reasons that we looked to switching it is we have had some parking problems in the past at Lemansky, so we were trying to see if we could maybe avoid some of those problems. So definitely take it under advisement that there are some concerns. People can call us, and if they have something specific, we can talk to them about it. And again, if this turns out to have not worked as well as Lemansky, then there's no reason we wouldn't put it back to Lemansky. But we thought, given some of the issues at Lemansky, it would be worth trying something different.
Thank you. So another item that came in after we prepared the agenda, I want to address, and I also received one of the letters from the Auburn Water District regarding the water and the arsenic in the water. As this board knows, it is not under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. While we wish that they had communicated with the town in a timely fashion and made us aware of this situation, I would like to read the following statement. The Auburn Water District is not a Town of Auburn department, and thus neither the Board of Selectmen nor the town manager have any authority over the oversight of the operations, management, or administration of the Auburn Water District. The Auburn Water District was founded in 1947 by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Chapter 585 of the General Laws of Massachusetts. There are two other water districts in Auburn, the Elm Hill Water District and Woodland Park Water District. The Auburn Water District is the largest of the three districts and serves about 80% of the town. The Auburn Water District is governed and operated by an elected board of 3 water commissioners. Their current water commissioners are Joseph Miller III is the chairman, Terrence J. Hastings is vice chairman, and Alexander Spanos is a member of the board. Their business office is located at 75 Church Street in Auburn. Their office hours are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Their telephone number is 508-832-5336. Mr. Ken Smith is the operations manager. We would encourage you to contact him or the commissioners to discuss your concerns. You may even request to speak at their next meeting. This was frustrating to the board that we weren't made aware of it, but I want to be very clear that it wasn't anything that the Board of Selectmen did because we weren't aware of it, because we have no jurisdiction over this. And I received one of the letters in the mail, and I've been assured that we were never in danger with these levels, and we will continue to monitor this. But again, please contact the Auburn Water District and make them aware of your concerns with the way that this was handled. Is there anything else from member items? And did you have anything since the agenda was prepared? We have no tabled items. Is there any additional public comment?
I do.
Mr. Simonian?
So I'm just going to briefly address public comment from earlier. And I'm going to make it quick. I'm not going to,
Okay,
there's
'cause
going to
I-
be no disparaging remarks. I fully
Okay.
understand the rules.
But
I'm just going to say
Mr.
that,
Simone, can I just, I'm
Absolutely.
going to allow, but I'm going to look at my notes and be very clear as to what town council said. Which
I'm
I,
aware there will be no comments to any of those issues.
well, public comment is not debatable back and forth.
I'm
I'm
not
going to
debating.
give you a little, very little latitude on this, but
I appreciate
we can make
that,
a-
but there were a couple of accusations made that I feel I have the right to address.
I,
First of all, I don't see how a letter that was sent to several people via a public forum like Facebook can be considered intended for only one person and not for public view. It was sent through a public forum. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Secondly, being accused of disrespecting this office. That one, yeah, there's just no way around it. That's just a dishonest comment. I've sat up here for 3 years.
you- Miss-
Okay, all right, I apologize. And I've done nothing to dishonor this position. I've never lied to anyone. I've served up here with integrity, and I have respected every single second of the 3 years I've been here and the honor that I've been given by the people in Auburn. I would never do anything to disrespect this. I've never sat up here and tried to promote a personal agenda. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be reciprocated. And-
Mr. Simonian?
Okay, and, well, one last thing, I'm just gonna, these are not my words. I'm just gonna read this, because I was contacted by the person in question.
We're not going to read, we're not going
Oh, well-
to, no, we're not going to do that.
Under public comment, he was allowed to read other people's comments, and why am I not afforded the same?
He was addressing an issue that happened at a,
And I'm addressing the same issue. That issue was addressed to me by the same person that he referenced.
this is
So
not,
you're
this is,
allowing-
no, this is not a Board of Selectmen item. You're sitting here as a member of the Board of Selectmen. This
Okay,
is
then
not,
I'll-
this is not a Board of
As-
Selectmen.
I will step down and speak as a resident. Attorney Moskis has in the past told us that at any time we could speak under public comment as a resident. I will do that if that's the board's wishes. I'll be happy to step down temporarily and speak as a resident. I feel I should be afforded the same opportunity as any other resident. Why is someone allowed to stand up here and disparage me?
Mr. Simonian, let's be very clear, no one disparaged you.
Can I continue or not? Otherwise, I will continue as
We
a
will,
resident.
you can continue at the podium, and I will caution you
All right.
the same way I caution Mr. Hamel. This is not a political forum.
I'm not speaking about politics.
And this, I'm going to caution you as to what you're reading, because you included that in a statement that was read, a prepared statement that was read at a political forum at a town-sponsored event.
I was there, I'm fully aware of what was said.
If
What I'm
you
saying-
if you have a letter
I
from
don't-
a private citizen or a
do not have
comment
a-
from a,
All right,
I'm not
go
going
ahead.
to allow you to continue interrupting me.
Okay,
If you are going to read a comment from a private citizen that they are not aware that you're reading it, I would ask you not to do that.
they're fully aware that I'm reading it because I told them I would.
I will,
So-
I'll give you the same caution I
Okay.
gave Mr. Hamel.
And I understand, the final comment that I'm going to make is that this speaks to the credibility of the person who's standing up here and talking about me as a member of this board. Okay? This person has gone to the media and filed a false complaint against me, or claimed to have filed a complaint, which they never did, cost the taxpayers a few $1,000s. This person has basically tried to coerce someone into making comments to the press to call me a liar. And that is exactly what was written. that the person who originally wrote me the letter, and as I said, she's fully aware, she sent these comments to me again in a public forum, and I told her, if this is the case, I'm going to address this. And she told me that he was attempting to coerce her into calling Ellie Olson and claiming I was a liar and she never sent me the letter. That's my final comment.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
your final comment,
that
Mr.
said,
Simonian. That's your final
I
comment.
feel sorry for Mr. Hamel.
That's
and I
your
will
final
continue
comment,
to-
Mr. Simonian. I'm not going to allow you to attack Mr. Hamel.
I'm not attacking.
We're not going to do this back and forth. I'm sure that any additional comments can be addressed in another forum. And it just makes me sad that we use families for this.
I agree.
We have the minutes of September 10th, 2012. Are there any corrections or omissions
Comment.
on the minutes, Mrs.?
Yes. Sharon, thank you. Again, as in the past, we've had some very, very important meetings and very, very detailed meetings, and both of these minutes are very, very comprehensive, detailed, and reflect exactly what has happened. I don't recall any changes to be made here, and I just want to make a note that, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Holstrom. Are there any corrections or omissions? The chair will accept them as written. The minutes of September 24th, 2012. Are there any corrections or omissions? The chair will accept them as written. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.